What are the limits of what we can know? How do we figure out who we are, what's right or wrong, or what's even real? For centuries, philosophers have created thought experiments to explore questions that don't always have clear answers, the kind that science alone can't fully explain. In this video, we'll break down 5 of the most famous thought experiments in philosophy. Each one raises big questions about the things we take for granted, about our beliefs, our choices, and the world around us. So let's dive in, starting with the Ship of Theseus, a question about identity that people have argued over for more than 2000 years. The Ship of Theseus originates from Greek philosophy and is famously discussed by Plutarch in his collection of biographical works, Parallel Lives. Imagine a ship once owned by the hero Theseus that undergoes gradual repairs. Over time, each piece of wood and rope is replaced, until not a single original part remains. This leads to a fundamental question posed by philosophers. Is it still the same ship? Some argue that the Ship of Theseus is defined by its continuity, that is, its function and structure remain consistent even as its parts are replaced. Others, drawing on John Locke's theory of identity, contend that once all parts are replaced, it can't truly be the same ship, as its identity relies on the original materials. From this perspective, the original wood, nails, and craftsmanship are integral to the ship's identity. If the ship is entirely reconstructed with different materials, does it retain its original essence, or does it become a different entity altogether? Thomas Hobbes, in his Elements of Philosophy, further complicates this dilemma. If we were to reassemble the original parts into a second ship, which one would be considered the real Ship of Theseus? This thought experiment challenges us to imagine taking the parts of the original ship and gradually reassembling them into a new vessel, while replacing the missing components of the first ship with new elements. The implications of this thought experiment extend beyond maritime discussions. It raises profound questions about personal identity. For instance, if all the cells in our body are replaced over time, are we the same person we were a decade ago? Those who believe that identity is tied to objects' material components might argue that the reassembled ship, composed entirely of the original materials, should be considered the true Ship of Theseus. In this view, once the parts have been restored, the ship retains its original essence and can be seen as the authentic ship. Conversely, if identity is defined by continuity and function, the ship currently in use, regardless of whether it is made of entirely different materials, could be deemed the real Ship of Theseus. This perspective emphasizes that the ship's identity is defined by its ongoing role and purpose as a vessel. Is continuity of structure sufficient to define identity, or does true identity reside in the material substance itself? Share your thoughts below. Our next challenge is the ethical dilemma that has challenged philosophers and ethicists alike. The Trolley Problem. First proposed by Philippa Foot in the 1960s, this thought experiment has since become central to the study of ethics. Here's how it goes. A trolley is hurtling down a track where 5 people are tied up. You're standing by a lever. If you pull it, the trolley diverts to a different track where only 1 person is tied up. Would you pull the lever, sacrificing 1 life to save 5? Or do nothing, letting the 5 die? Foot and later Judith Jarvis Thomson explored how our moral intuitions conflict in such scenarios. This experiment highlights consequentialist versus deontological ethics. Consequentialism is an ethical theory that judges rightness or wrongness of actions based on their outcomes or consequences, aiming to maximize the overall good or minimize harm. Deontology, on the other hand, is an ethical theory that emphasizes the importance of following moral rules or duties, regardless of the consequences, asserting that particular actions are right or wrong based on their nature. Consequentialists like John Stuart Mill, who is famous for his philosophy of utilitarianism, would argue for minimizing harm, thus pulling the lever. In contrast, deontologists like Immanuel Kant might argue against it, believing that each life is equally sacred and that we cannot use people as means to an end. This ethical puzzle has real-life implications, especially as artificial intelligence advances. Imagine a self-driving car having to choose between protecting its passengers or swerving to avoid pedestrians. How should it be programmed to handle such situations? Let us know in the comments. Our third thought experiment is the brain in a vat, which challenges us to question the very nature of reality. Imagine that, unbeknownst to you, you're simply a brain suspended in a vat, receiving all sensory experiences through a sophisticated computer. Every sight, sound, and memory you have is nothing more than artificial signals sent to your brain. This idea was famously presented by Hilary Putnam to explore skepticism and the limits of human knowledge. Putnam argues that the brain in a vat scenario is self-refuting. If we were indeed brains in vats, then our claims about being brains in vats would be false, as we would have no way to refer to our existence accurately. While Putnam critiques the brain in a vat argument, other philosophers such as David Chalmers engage with it to illustrate the epistemological challenges of knowing the external world. Chalmers discusses the implications of consciousness and reality, suggesting that even if we are in a simulated environment, our subjective experiences remain valid and significant. Today, the brain in a vat thought experiment resonates with contemporary ideas such as simulation theory, which posits that our universe itself could be an advanced simulation created by a more powerful intelligence. So how can we know what is real? Can we truly trust our senses, or are we merely brains in vats trapped in a fabricated world? The experience machine is a thought experiment proposed by philosopher Robert Nozick in his 1974 book Anarchy, State, and Utopia. It serves as a critique of hedonism, which posits that pleasure is the highest good and ultimate aim of life. In Nozick's scenario, individuals can plug into a machine that provides them with an endless stream of pleasurable experiences. Once connected, users cannot distinguish these simulated sensations from genuine experiences. Everything feels completely real and fulfilling. Nozick argues that most people would decline the offer to enter the experience machine. This choice reflects a deeper understanding of human desires that go beyond mere pleasure. People crave authenticity in their experiences. The joy derived from real achievements, relationships, and challenges adds meaning to life. If experiences are merely simulations, they lack the depth and significance that accompany genuine interactions and endeavors. Furthermore, the thought experiment highlights the importance of personal agency, the ability to make choices and exert control over one's life. Choosing to engage with a machine means surrendering that control for the sake of pleasure. Many individuals value the process of striving towards their goals, learning from failures and experiencing growth, which contribute to a sense of identity and purpose. Nozick's theory posits that reality itself holds intrinsic value. While pleasure is undoubtedly important, it is not the sole component of a fulfilling life. This perspective is especially relevant today, where social media creates curated representations of life that may provide superficial pleasure, but often lack authenticity. The experience machine thought experiment resonates strongly in our modern context, particularly with the rise of virtual realities and social media platforms that offer simulated experiences. Many individuals grapple with questions of authenticity versus the allure of manufactured happiness. Would we choose a life of simulated pleasures, or do we inherently value the complexities and struggles that define real life? Finally, let's explore the Raven paradox, a thought experiment introduced by the logician Karl Hempel. This paradox challenges our understanding of how we confirm scientific claims and highlights the intricacies of inductive reasoning. Imagine you want to confirm a statement: all ravens are black. Each time you see a black raven, it seems to strengthen your belief in this idea. You spot one raven and you think, great, that supports my claim. You see another black raven and your confidence grows. It feels like you're building solid evidence that all ravens must indeed be black. But here is where it gets tricky. According to Hempel, observing green apple should also count as evidence for the claim all ravens are black. Yes, you heard that right. A green apple is not a raven, and it's not black. So how can it possibly support your claim? According to logic, the statement if something is a raven, then it is black is equivalent to saying if something is not black, then it is not a raven. This logical relationship highlights how we understand implications in statements. In simpler terms, if we accept that all ravens are black, we must also accept that anything that isn't black cannot be a raven. This leads us to an intriguing conclusion. If the statement all ravens are black is true, then observing something that is not black, such as a green apple, does not contradict the statement about black ravens. Since a green apple isn't a raven, its existence doesn't challenge the idea that all ravens are black. In fact, from a purely logical standpoint, seeing a green apple can be seen as supporting evidence for the claim that all ravens are black, because it reinforces the idea that non-black objects exist outside the category of black ravens. This reasoning may seem surprising or even nonsensical at first. Most people intuitively think that only seeing black ravens would provide a valid proof for the statement about ravens. After all, if we are trying to confirm a claim about a specific group like ravens, why would an unrelated object like a green apple count as evidence? Yet this is the essence of Hempel's raven paradox. It forces us to reconsider our understanding of what constitutes evidence. If both black ravens and green apples can be interpreted as supporting the claim that all ravens are black, how can we really be certain that this universal statement is true? This paradox highlights the complexities and sometimes counterintuitive nature of inductive reasoning and how we come to confirm scientific claims. Ultimately, it challenges us to think critically about the nature of evidence and whether simply observing unrelated objects can help us validate broad statements about reality. These thought experiments reveal how complex and sometimes unsettling philosophy can be. They challenge us to think critically about identity, ethics, reality, and knowledge. While there may be no definitive conclusions, the inquiries themselves open doors to new ways of thinking. In the end, it's not just about finding answers. It's about asking questions that help us better understand ourselves and the world around us. Thank you for watching, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this discussion, consider liking and subscribing for more content that sparks curiosity.